Chapter 1, Reproduction in Plants. Living things make young ones like themselves. Most mammals give birth to babies, birds and reptiles lay eggs. Plants are also living things. They also reproduce like other living things. In this chapter, we are going to have a look at how plants reproduce their own kinds. Reproduction. Reproduction is the process by which plants make young ones like themselves. There are two ways in which a plant can reproduce. First, reproduction through seeds. Second, reproduction through different body parts. Reproduction through seeds. The flower is the reproductive organ of a plant. Many plants form seeds inside their flowers. Structure of a seed. The outer covering of a seed is called the seed coat. The seed coat helps to protect the embryo from injury and also from drying out. The seed coat can be thin and soft as in beans or thick and hard as in coconut. Endosperm, a temporary food supply, is packed around the embryo in the form of special leaves called cotyledons or seed leaves. These generally are the first parts visible when a seed germinates. The seed leaves, cotyledons, store food for the baby plant. Plants are classified in two groups based upon the number of seed leaves, cotyledons. Monocot, a plant that has only one cotyledon. Examples: wheat, rice, maize, grass and corn. Dicot, a plant that has two cotyledons. Examples: bean, rajma and pea. Germination of seeds. Germination happens when a baby plant is growing. The baby plant is in between the cotyledons. A seed needs the right amount of water, air and warmth to germinate. The conditions needed for germination may not be suitable at all times, so seeds wait for some time before they germinate. This waiting period is called dormancy. Conditions necessary for germination. After germination, seedlings need air, water, sunlight, nutrients to develop into a new plant. Let us see what happens if one of them is missing. When a seed starts to grow, we say it germinates. The cotyledons store food for the baby plant inside the seed. When the seed starts to germinate, the first thing to come out is the main root. The skin starts to split and the tiny shoot straightens, carrying the cotyledon with it. The main root gets bigger. The side roots appear and so do the leaves. Scattering of seeds. People plant some seeds, but most plants do not rely on people. Plants rely on animals, wind and water to scatter their seeds. If the seeds simply fell and grew beneath the parent's plant, they would be too overcrowded and would be starved of nutrients. So it is important that the seeds must be scattered over a wide area where they find the conditions to grow. Scattering by birds and animals. Animals disperse seeds in several ways. Some plants have juicy fruit that animals like to eat. The animals eat the fruit, but only the juicy part is digested. The stones and pips pass through the animal's digestive system and are excreted to form new plants. This can be far away from the parent plant. Blackberry, cherry, and apple seeds are scattered in this way. Birds also like to eat fruit and they help to disperse seeds to other areas through their droppings. Mistletoe has sticky fruits which are attractive to birds. The sticky seeds stick to the bird's beak. They then run their beaks on the bark of trees. The sticky seeds are left on the bark to grow into new mistletoe plants. Mistletoe is a parasitic plant. Squirrels collect nuts like corn and bury them for winter food, but they often forget where they have buried them, and these grow into new trees. Scattering by wind. The seeds which are dispersed by wind are smaller, that have structures like wings or hair or feathers. These seeds are very light. The seeds of orchid are almost as fine as dust. Any hairy growth on seeds acts like little parachutes and carry the seeds far away from the parent plant. The seeds of dandelion are carried by the wind. The seeds of the thistle are also carried by the wind. Both the dandelion and the thistle have hairy growths at the top of the seed to carry the seeds far away from the parent plant. Cotton seeds, thistle seeds, dandelions. Scattering by water. Many aquatic plants and plants that live near water have seeds that can float or carried by water. Plants living along streams and rivers have seeds that float downstream and therefore germinate at new sites. The size of the seed is not a factor in determining whether it can float. Some very large seeds like coconut can float. Some small seeds also float, scattering by explosions. Some plants have pods that explode when ripe and shoot out the seeds. Lupins, gourds, and brooms scatter their seeds in this way. Pea and bean plants also keep their seeds in a pod. When the seeds are ripe and the pod has dried, the pod bursts open and seeds are scattered. Milkweed seeds. Some plants die and burst. Scattering by fire. Plants cannot run away from a fire, so some plants have developed a way to help their seeds survive. There are some species of pine trees that require the heat from a fire before their cones will open and release seeds. Banksia, eucalyptus, and other Australian plants also rely on fire. Reproduction by different parts of plants. Many plants are not produced by seeds. Instead, a new plant grows from a vegetative part, usually a stem, root, or leaf. This is called vegetative reproduction or asexual reproduction. The resulting plants are clones, that is, they are exactly the same as the parent plant. Reproduction through stems. Many plants develop roots through their stems and then grow into adult plants. In rose, durian, sugarcane, the stem cuttings from the plant are put into moist soil. They develop adventitious roots and buds at the base which develop into new plants. In tamarind, root cuttings are used for vegetative propagation. Reproduction through roots. In some plants, many roots develop when they are kept in water. These roots develop shoots and become new plants. Examples: money plant, dahlia. Reproduction through leaves. The bryophyllum plant, also known as air plant or mother of thousands, can grow many new plants from its leaves. New plants from spores. Non-flowering plants are some of the oldest plants on earth. Some famous non-flowering plants are ferns and horsetails. You can often see horsetails growing as weeds in gardens and fields. Do you know how non-flowering plants reproduce? Non-flowering plants do not have flowers. They have to reproduce in other ways. Have a look at the underside of a fern leaf. Ferns have leaves with breathing pores on the underside. They also have little light-colored pods on the undersurface of the leaves. These pods are called sori. The sori protect the cell cases from the weather. Inside the cases, the protoplasm divides into many tiny cells, and each cell becomes a spore. As the weather becomes warm, the case dries and ripens. The spores spurt from the case and are carried away in the air to form new plants. Story of tea. This story began in ancient China over 5,000 years ago. According to legend, the Shen Nong, an early emperor, was a skilled ruler, creative scientist, and patron of the arts. His far-sighted edicts required, among other things, that all drinking water should be boiled as a hygienic precaution. One summer day, while visiting a distant region of his realm, he and the court stopped to rest. In accordance with his ruling, the servant began to boil water for the court to drink. Dried leaves from the nearby bush fell into the boiling water, and a brown liquid was infused into the water. As a scientist, the emperor was interested in the new liquid. He drank some and found it very refreshing. Therefore, according to legend, tea was created. The history of tea drinking in India. Tea drinking has evolved in different ways over the years in India and differs from region to region. First thought of as the drink of the royals, tea has now become the favorite of the common man as India leads the world in tea drinking. From the humble roadside tea stall and the railway platforms to the boardrooms of corporate India, tea is easily available. The cup of tea and refreshing chai available in tea shops or train stations to the masala teas of North India, the variety of brews available is numerous. As per the history of tea drinking in India, local people used to brew and drink tea using the leaves of the wild native tea plants. Since that time, different varieties of tea have emerged. The most famous among them is the Darjeeling tea. The commercial production of tea in India was started by the British East India Company, and vast tracts of land have been exclusively developed into tea estates which produce various types of tea. The first tea garden was established by the British East India Company by the end of the 19th century after the company took over tea cultivation in Assam, a region in the northeastern part